All right, so get this picture. Ancient Jerusalem, right shortly after the crucifixion of Jesus.
Okay.
His followers are huddled together,
Yeah.
heartbroken, terrified.
Yeah.
What now? Right? You can just feel that tension.
Oh, absolutely.
What were they supposed to do? The one they thought would change everything, their leader was gone.
Yeah, it's a pivotal moment in history. I mean, just imagine the weight of those emotions, right? Grief, fear, maybe even a sense of betrayal.
Right.
And yet from that crucible of despair emerges one of the most influential movements the world has ever seen.
This is exactly what we're diving into today, the birth of Christianity.
Wow.
We've got these incredible firsthand accounts of what happened next.
Right.
Let me tell you, the story takes a few turns that you might not expect.
Oh, it's fascinating how this event, Pentecost, reveals so much about how movements evolve.
Okay.
It's rarely a straight line from A to B.
So back to those followers in hiding, probably wondering if it was all worth it, when suddenly, bam, they experience something that changes everything.
Wow.
The texts describe this incredible energy filling the room, a strange presence. And they're overcome with this wave of joy, security, confidence.
Right.
Can you imagine?
Like this incredible release.
Yeah.
A collective exhale after holding their breath for so long.
Yeah.
Think about it. They've lost their leader, the one they believed was the Messiah.
Right.
They're in hiding, fearing for their own lives,
Yeah.
and suddenly they're flooded with this overwhelming sense of peace and purpose.
Okay, so they're fired up, ready to share their message with the world.
Okay.
And you'd think naturally they'd go around telling everyone about the fatherhood of God, the sonship brotherhood of men, the message Jesus dedicated his life to teaching.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets interesting.
The accounts are very clear.
Oh.
What takes center stage is the resurrection.
Really?
The fact that Jesus was no longer dead, that he appeared to them, that he's coming back.
Wow.
That becomes the message that grips them, that consumes them, the one they're driven to spread.
Hold on. That's quite a shift.
Yeah.
I mean, the resurrection's a huge deal, don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
But it seems like a side note compared to this revolutionary message of universal love and brotherhood that Jesus emphasized.
Right.
What do you make of that?
This is where understanding the historical and emotional context is so crucial.
Okay.
Remember, they were grappling with immense grief, confusion, fear.
Yeah.
The resurrection in that moment was the ultimate antidote. It validated their belief in Jesus, offered hope in the face of despair, and most importantly, it gave them a sense of continuity with the person they loved and followed.
So it's less about complex theology and more about this raw emotional connection.
Exactly.
He's alive. Our connection with him isn't over.
Right.
That's powerful, especially in the midst of trauma.
Exactly. And it's not that those earlier teachings, those beautiful ideas of universal love and brotherhood completely disappeared.
Sure.
They were still there, woven into the fabric of this evolving message, but the emphasis had shifted.
Okay.
And as we'll see, that shift had profound implications for the future of Christianity.
Okay, so we've got this new message, this focus on the resurrection bubbling up.
Right.
But how does it go from this intimate gathering of believers to this phenomenon that spreads across the Roman Empire?
That's where Pentecost itself comes in.
Okay.
Imagine this Jerusalem is buzzing. It's the festival of Pentecost.
Right.
Thousands of people from all corners of the Roman Empire have gathered, a melting pot of cultures, languages, beliefs.
It's like the biggest event of the year.
Exactly.
And into this electric atmosphere steps Peter, one of Jesus's closest companions.
Right.
But he's not the same Peter who denied even knowing Jesus just a few weeks ago.
Right.
He's different now.
Absolutely. He's transformed by that experience we talked about, that outpouring of the Spirit.
Right.
The text describes his sermon as this incredibly powerful, passionate event.
Okay.
He's speaking with this conviction that just draws people in.
And the impact is almost unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about thousands of people converting to this new faith that very day. That's some serious persuasive power.
Yeah.
What was it about this new gospel that was so convincing?
On the surface, the message is pretty straightforward.
Okay.
It centers on the events of Jesus's life, his death, his resurrection, and the promise that he will return.
Okay.
It's a message of hope, of salvation, of a world transformed by divine power.
Which, let's be honest, would have been a pretty appealing message for a lot of people living under Roman rule.
Yeah.
Times were tough.
Yeah.
There was a lot of uncertainty.
Right.
The idea of a new kingdom, a better world on the horizon.
Right.
Well, I can see why that would resonate.
Exactly. But there's also a subtle brilliance to how this new gospel is framed.
Okay.
By focusing on the resurrection, on the promise of Jesus' return, it subtly elevates him from a human teacher to something more.
So it's like, yeah, he was a great guy, taught some great stuff, Buddy T, he also conquered death and is coming back to rule.
Right.
That definitely changes things.
Right. It implies his divinity, his importance, in a way that's hard to ignore.
Okay.
And don't forget, the people hearing this message, they're looking for answers, for something to believe in.
Right.
And this message offered that.
It's interesting, though, because even as the message evolves, even as it shifts towards this focus on the resurrection, there are still echoes of Jesus's original teachings, right?
Absolutely.
Like that emphasis on love, forgiveness, compassion.
All there woven into the fabric of this new message. It might not be the central focus anymore, but it's still a vital part of the tapestry.
So we've gone from this message of universal love and brotherhood to a focus on the resurrection and Jesus's imminent return. What happens next? Does this new gospel just fizzle out?
Not at all. In fact, it explodes this new message. This new Christianity starts spreading like wildfire. And it wasn't just the message itself.
Right.
You see a radical shift in the lives of these early Christians.
Yeah, you're right. They were living differently.
Yeah.
Selling their possessions, living communally.
Yeah.
This radical generosity and equality.
Right.
This wasn't just about believing in something. It was about living it in a whole new way. What drove that, do you think?
Remember that feeling, that towerful experience we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
That overwhelming sense of joy, security, and confidence
Right.
that washed over those first believers?
Yeah.
That experience is key here.
So it's not just about doctrines and rituals anymore. It's about this direct personal connection
Exactly.
with something bigger than themselves.
The texts describe it as a direct line to the divine.
Wow.
An inner knowing that transcends logic or reason.
Okay.
This wasn't about seeking God in temples or rituals.
Right.
It was about finding God within yourself.
Wow, that's powerful and radical for its time, right?
Absolutely. This idea that each individual, regardless of their social standing, had this direct line to the divine was revolutionary.
Yeah.
It broke down social barriers, elevated the status of women,
Wow.
and fueled this incredible sense of unity and shared purpose.
Okay, but it wasn't all sunshine and roses, right? I mean, selling all your possessions because you think the world is about to end.
Right.
That seems a little extreme.
You hit on a crucial point. As powerful as this focus on individual experience can be, it's also inherently subjective.
Well.
And without the grounding of clear teachings, of a shared understanding, it's easy for things to go astray.
So you have this incredible energy, this passion, but also the potential for misinterpretation.
Right.
For things to get lost in translation as the message spreads further from its source.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense.
And that's precisely what happens.
Hey.
The texts hint at these unintended consequences.
Right.
Conflicts that arose as this new faith grappled with its own identity.
Okay.
How much of the old Jewish law should apply?
Right.
How do you reconcile the teachings of Jesus with this new focus on his divinity?
Yeah.
These were questions that would shape the future of Christianity.
Wow. So Pentecost, this incredible explosion of energy and belief that changed the world,
Right.
but it also seems like the start of a whole new set of questions and challenges.
Yeah.
Almost like opening Pandora's box. You unleash something powerful,
Right.
but you can't control where it goes from there.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And it reminds us that spiritual transformation, any kind of social change really, is rarely neat and tidy.
Right.
It's messy, unpredictable, full of unintended consequences,
Yeah.
but it can also be incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
And the echoes of that power, that potential for change, are still with us today.
Which brings us to the question we should all be asking ourselves.
Okay.
The text mentions that the Spirit wasn't just poured out on those first followers, but on all believers.
Right.
So if that's true, what could that mean for us now today?
Yeah.
Is that same Spirit still available?
That's the question, isn't it?
And if so, how would our lives, our world, even be different if we were open to that possibility? It's something to think about, isn't it?
It really is.